This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, I have shared my screen. You can see, right? Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It
Okay,
is visible.
okay. So in the last class, we discussed about data warehouse, just overview. Okay, today we'll discuss in detail about what is data warehouse, what type of data we store in data warehouse. We have different types of schemas, dimension, all these things we'll discuss. Okay. So in the last class, we took this example ATM machine or banking example, right? So first the data will be loaded into OLTP database. From OLTP, it will be loaded into the data warehouse database. Next. So here in OLTP, first initially we have OLTP database, right? As I told you, ATM machine will be connected to OLTP database. Across the country, not only single ATM machine, will have thousands of ATM machines will be there, right? So thousands of ATM machines, they will be connecting to this OLTP database, okay? And also to a bank, there will be millions of customers, okay? So millions of customers, they will be accessing their account details through these ATM machines. They will be withdrawing or depositing the money through ATM machine, and they will be doing the transactions. Not only ATM machines, these are the front-end applications. Front-end applications means internet banking. We can log in to our account through online, and also we can do online transaction, right? So we can transfer the amount, and also we can do some online transactions also. Let's say these are the front-end application, internet banking applications. So initially, ATM machines are connected to OLTP database, and also internet banking applications also connect to the OLTP database. And we have a single database, okay, and different types of sources. This is a one type of source. ATM machine is one type of source. Internet banking is another type of source. Like that, different types of sources, they are accessing OLTP database data, okay, and millions of customers, they are accessing their account details from different sources, and we have a single database. So if millions of customers are accessing the same database data at a time, then there may be chance to go the database performance down. Okay, so if millions of customers are accessing the same database data at a time, there may be chance to go the database performance down. If the database is down, then no one can able to access their account details. So if you try to log into your account, it will not allow to log in. It will say the server down or database down, something like that. So when this server will goes down, so if millions of customers are accessing the same database data at a time, then there may be chance to go the database performance down. That is the reason generally in real time they will not depend on a single database. Okay, so here parallelly to this OLTP database, have a ODS database. ODS means operational data source. ODS database means operational data source. Okay, so from ODS is a replica or a copy of a OLTP. So in OLTP, if there are 100 tables, the same 100 tables also present in ODS database. If there are 500 tables in OLTP database, the same 500 tables will present in ODS database. Suppose in OLTP there is an employee table. In employee table, if there are 1 million records, the same 1 million records also present in ODS database. Instead of having a single database for all the sources, here they have divided two databases. Okay, one is OLTP. OLTP means online transaction process, whereas we have another database called ODS database. ODS means operational data source. ODS is a copy of the OLTP database. Whatever tables and the data present in OLTP, the same tables and the same data also present in ODS database. Okay, so these two databases will be in a sync. The data and the table structures will be in a sync. Sync means same as it is the copy, whatever is present in OLTP, the same copy will present in ODS also. Why do we have these two databases? Means, as I told you, if there is a single database in all the sources or all the applications or millions of customers, if they are accessing the same database data at a time, there may be chance to go the database performance down. That is the reason. Instead of all the applications or all the sources to connecting to a single database, assume these ATM machines are connected to OLTP database, and the internet banking applications, instead of connecting to OLTP database, they have connected to ODS database. Now, both the databases are having the same database data. If you check your account balance through the internet banking, you will get the same balance. And if you check your account through ATM machine, you will get the same balance. Okay. Now, another scenario here. Suppose in your account you have 10,000 rupees INR. Okay, so from ATM machine you have withdrawn 2000 2000. Okay, and in your account now the balance should be 8,000. Here in OLTP, first, since you have come from ATM machine, here if you check from your ATM from ATM machine, it will show the balance as 8,000, right? And these internet banking applications are connected to ODS database, right? If you log into your internet banking application, there also it should have to display the balance as 8,000, not the 10,000. As soon as you made any transaction here, if the balance is 8,000, immediately within fraction of seconds, the corresponding to your account in ODS database, balance will be updated to 8,000. Same way, if you have transferred some amount like another 2,000, you have transferred from 8,000, okay, through internet banking application, through front end application, you have transferred 2,000. Now here first the data will get updated in ODS database. Okay, so in ODS now the balance it should have to display as 6,000. As soon as ODS database is updated with the 6,000 corresponding to your customer ID, immediately within fraction of seconds, the OLTP database also will get updated corresponding to your account ID. The balance will be updated to 6,000 like that. So if the transactions happens from ATM machine or from this front end application, both the databases will be in a sync, and there will not be the database will not go down. So if one database is down, immediately it will switch to the another database, so that customers will not face any difficulties here in ATM machine or internet banking application. That is the reason initially we'll have two source databases. These two we call it as a source databases, because the source applications or front end applications are connected to this OLTP and ODS database. That is the reason these two databases we call it as a source databases. And who will load the data from OLTP to ODS? As soon as any new record got inserted in OLTP, it's whose responsibility to extract that record from OLTP, transform and load into the ODS. Means here you can see Oracle jobs, mainly Oracle jobs will be there. Okay, if they are using the Oracle database, Oracle jobs created by the DBA team. Okay, so in real time we'll have the separated team. DBA means database administrator. So database administrator team will be there. It's their responsibility to create the jobs between OLTP and ODS to have the data in a sync. Okay, very rare we will have the ETL Informatica mappings, but 99% we will have Oracle jobs between OLTP and ODS database, and very rare we will have this ETL Informatica mappings. Okay, so they will be taking care, DBA team, they will be taking care to maintain the data in a sync between these two databases like OLTP and ODS. We are not going to do anything here. So between OLTP and ODS, we are not going to do anything there. So automatically this Oracle jobs will be taken care to maintain the data in a sync. Then once we have the data in ODS database, so from here It's 100% ETL Informatica developer's responsibility to extract the data from ODS database, transform and load into the data warehouse database. So here comes our responsibility as Informatica developer. We will be creating the Informatica mappings in ODS and data warehouse database. So I repeat, between OLTP and ODS database, Oracle jobs will be there created by the DBA team, and between ODS to data warehouse, it's ETL Informatica developers responsibility to create Informatica mappings to extract the data from ODS database, transform and load into the data warehouse database. So like that, we will be creating the Informatica mappings. Got it? Between ODS to data warehouse. Okay, so here comes our responsibility between ODS to data warehouse. When you are explaining in interview also, you have to say in my project, the source databases are OLTP and ODS. So OLTP and ODS are the source databases. Okay, so OLTP and ODS, these two are the source databases, and from ODS we extract the data, transform and load into the data warehouse. Inside the ODS we will have the tables. So in the last class we discussed about what is table, inside the table how the data is stored, right? So we will have the columns and rows inside the table. So like that, so many hundreds of tables inside the ODS. Again, we will have the schemas. Inside the schemas we will have the tables. In the same way, in data warehouse also we'll have the schemas, and inside that we will have the tables. Okay, so inside those tables the data will be stored. So whatever the data present in ODS, we extract the data through Informatica, transform and load into the data warehouse. Okay, here comes our responsibility between ODS to data warehouse. Now we'll discuss in detail between ODS to data warehouse, how we extract the data, transform and load into the data warehouse. Okay, next we have another scenario here. So you can see here we have a OLTP database, right? Online transaction process, and this is ODS database. Next to OLTP, we have the ODS database, operational data source. And as I told you, between OLTP and ODS database, DBA team, or in some companies there will be PLSQL developer team will be there. So in Oracle PLSQL developer team, they will be creating the jobs, Oracle jobs they will create. So here we are not going to do anything. We just have to say in interview if they ask between OLTP and ODS. So they have created like Oracle jobs. They means like a DBA team. We have a DBA team. They have created the Oracle jobs. So it's their responsibility to maintain the data in a sync between OLTP and ODS. Okay. Inside the ODS, now we have the tables. These are the tables. Like T1 is a, assume there are 4 tables in ODS database. Okay, so T1 is a table, T2 is a table, T3, T4, like that. There are 4 tables in ODS database, right? So as I told you here, we extract the data from ODS, transform, okay, and load into the data warehouse. Oracle jobs means here we are not going to create any Oracle jobs. Okay, as I told you, the DBA team, they knows that what is a Oracle job. Okay, so in Oracle, we have like a synchronous CDC, asynchronous CDC, like that. So in synchronous CDC jobs, they will be creating DBA. Okay, we don't know like what is synchronous, what is asynchronous CDC. Forget about that. Okay, you just remember the DBA team. They will be creating some PLSQL jobs. They will be writing the code. Okay, they will be setting up at the back, like inside the admin side. They will be taking care to create the jobs there. Okay, so we no need to worry about the Oracle jobs. So they'll be taking care. You just remember the word called Oracle jobs. So if they ask, tell me what is Oracle job, I am also not sure. I have never seen that Oracle job what they have created. We will not be having the access to the admin. Okay, so that's the reason we are not sure what is Oracle job. So simply you say that DBA team, they have created the jobs, Oracle jobs. So those jobs will take care to maintain the data in a sync between the OLTP and ODS. Okay, later in future classes you will come to know what is meant by job, how to create a job and all that I will show in Informatica level in future classes. For now, just remember DBA will be creating the Oracle jobs. Okay. Next here, as I told you, our responsibility comes here between ODS from ODS we extract, transform, and load the data into the data warehouse database, right? Okay. So generally here, if you see, we are not extracting the data from, I mean, like directly we should not. This is ODS database, and here we have the data warehouse database. Directly we should not extract. Directly we will not extract the data from ODS, transform and load into the data warehouse. Okay. So here we have the ODS database. Inside the ODS database, we'll have the schemas. Inside the schemas, we'll have the tables. Directly, we should not extract, transform, and load the data into the data warehouse. Okay. So why we should not load the data? What will happen if you load the data directly from ODS to data warehouse? Forget about the staging area. Assume there is no staging area database in between ODS and data warehouse. Forget about the staging area. So assume we have ODS database and the data warehouse database. Okay. So as I told you, we should not directly load the data from ODS to data warehouse. What will happen if you load the data directly from ODS to data warehouse? That we will see. Now in ODS, we have a table T1, right? So this is the ODS T1 table. Okay. In ODS T1 table, we have these columns. In the last class, we discussed about what are the columns, right? Okay. So employee number is a column name, employee name is a column, salary is a column, create date is a column, run date is a column. Total, how many columns are there here? We have 5 columns are there. Employee number, employee name, salary, create date, run date, like that. We have 5 columns. Okay. And we have how many rows in this table? There are 5 rows in this table. 1A, 100, 5, 3, 20, 19, 9, 1, 20, 12. Like that, this is the first row. Like that, we have total 5 rows in this table. Okay, now assume we have created ETL Informatica mapping to extract these 5 records from ODS T1 table, transform and load into the data warehouse. For that, assume we have created Informatica mapping, and that mapping will extract these 5 records from ODS T1 table, transform, and it will load these 5 records into the data warehouse table. Okay, and if you observe here, for one of the records we have invalid create date. Is it possible to have the date like this? 55, create date as 55, date should be 1 to 31, right? Month should be 1 to 12, but here by mistake someone has inserted invalid create date for one of the row in a table. This is invalid create date. In the same way, so for one of the rows, we have salary as a null here. Null means empty. We don't have the salary. So is it possible to have any of the employee in an employee table without salary? Is it a valid record? No, right? So how many error records we have in this table? Can you tell me? Out of 5 records, how many valid records we have and how many invalid or error records we have in this table? How many valid records we have?
Three valid, three valid, two invalid.
Right, so here we have 3 valid records and 2 invalid records or error records we have. Okay, so out of these 5 there are 2 error records. So 3C 355, 55 is a error record, so we do not have any data like 55. Date should be 1 to 31. Okay, and here for one of the employee we have salary as null. Okay, so the mapping, what it will do is between ODS to data warehouse, it will extract these 5 records and it will insert these 5 records into the data warehouse. Even though there are error records, the data warehouse will allow to insert all the records, error records or valid records, everything it will allow to insert. Okay, now these 5 records we have inserted inside the data warehouse. We know on top of the data warehouse reports will be generated, right? In the last class we discussed, or in the session also we have seen, by using the data warehouse data we can generate the reports, right? So here we discussed. So by using the data warehouse data, reports will be generated. These reports are helpful to the business people to do analysis on their business and to take the decision on the business and to keep the business in profits, right? Okay, so in the same way, here, whatever 5 records we have loaded inside the data warehouse, by using those 5 records, let's say reporting team, they have generated the report. Okay, so in that report, how many employees information it will be displayed? Is it going to display all the five employees information or only 3 employees information? The report displays only the valid records. It will extract only valid records. Okay, so if there are incorrect data or error records we have inside the data warehouse, and then how the reports are going to be generated? Is it going to be valid report or invalid report? If we have the invalid data inside the data warehouse, what type of reports are going to be generated? Is it going to be valid or invalid? You can unmute and give the answer. So if you have the invalid data inside the data, by using the invalid data, if the reports are going to be generated, is it going to be valid or invalid reports?
Invalid.
Definitely we will get an invalid report, right? Okay, so that is the reason before loading the data inside the data warehouse, we just have to check whatever the data coming from the source, whether it is valid or not. If it is valid, then only we have to load into the data warehouse. Okay, we should not load such type of error records inside the data warehouse. Okay, so if we load the error records inside the data warehouse, the invalid reports are going to be generated. That is the reason before loading the data from ODS to data warehouse, we have to check whatever the data coming from the source. Data means all the records. So total 5 records complete set, we can call it as a data. Data means the set of records, we call it as a data. So like we all the 5 records, before loading into the data warehouse, we just have to check whether they are valid or not. If they are valid, then only we have to load the valid records inside the data warehouse. If they are invalid, we should not load those records into the warehouse. Only the valid records should be loaded inside the data warehouse. Got it? Okay, we should not load the valid records inside the data warehouse. Okay, so for that reason only, in between ODS and data warehouse, we have here staging area or stage database. Okay, staging area or stage database, here we have between ODS and staging database, ODS and data warehouse database, we have a staging area to validate whatever the data coming from the source, that is valid or not. Okay, staging area or stage database, here we have between ODS and data warehouse to validate whatever the data coming from the source. Okay, so like here we will if you observe here, whatever the tables are present in ODS, there are 4 tables: T1 table, T2 table, T3 table, T4 table. The same 4 tables also present in staging area, right? Whatever tables are present in ODS, the same 4 tables are present in staging area also, which means staging area is a copy of the ODS. If there are 4 tables in ODS, the same 4 tables also present in staging database. If there are 500 tables in ODS, the same 500 tables also present in staging database. Okay, and why do we have the staging database here? Staging database we have in between ODS and data warehouse to do the data validation and to do the data fixing. Data fixing means correcting the invalid records or error records. So before loading into the data warehouse, here we have to check whatever data coming from the source, whether it is valid or not. If it is valid, then only we have to load into the data warehouse. If it is not valid, in the staging area, we have to fix that record or we have to correct the record, and then only we have to load into the data warehouse. Like that, we should have to create a mapping. So now, so we create ETL Informatica mapping between ODS and staging area. So we create Informatica mapping from ODS T1 table to stage T1 table. and then we create Informatica mapping between ODS T2 table to stage T2 table. Okay, and we create Informatica mapping between ODS T3 table to stage T3 table. In the same way, we create Informatica mapping to extract the data from ODS T4 table, transform and load in the stage T4 table. Now, if there are four tables here in ODS and staging database, so assume we create four Informatica mappings. One mapping is for to extract the data from ODS T1 table, transform and load into the stage T1 table. Another Informatica mapping is for to extract the data from ODS T2 table, transform and load into the stage T2 table. In the same way, third Informatica mapping is for to extract the data from ODS T3 table, transform and load into the stage T3 table. Another Informatica mapping is for to extract the data from ODS T4 table, transform and stage T4 table. Like that, let's say we have created four Informatica mappings. Okay. Now the first Informatica mapping, which is ODS T1 to stage T1 table. This is the stage T1 table. In stage T1 table also, we have the same columns. Whatever the columns we have in ODS T1 table, we have the same columns: employee number, employee name, salary, create date, run date. Like that, we have here also. There are five columns. Okay, in stage T1 table also. Initially, how many rows are there in the stage T1 table? Initially, for the first time, how many rows are there in the stage T1 table? For the first time, do we have any rows here?
Zero.
No.
Zero. So we have zero rows. We don't have any rows in the stage T1 table. For the first time, before we start execute, we have zero records. Okay, fine. Next, in ODS, in stage T1 table, we have set data validations. Okay, so we have set all types of the validation. Validation means, okay, if you are trying to insert the salary as null for any of the employee, it should have to fail the execution. It should not allow to insert the null value record in the stage T1 table. If you are trying to insert the invalid created in the stage T1 table, before insert, table should check whether the date is 1 to 31, month is 1 to 12 or not. If it is yes, then only it should have to allow to insert. If it is invalid created, then the stage T1 table should not allow to insert that record. It should have to fail the execution. Such type of validations here on stage T1 table. Okay, let's say this is also DBA team's responsibility to create the tables and to set the constraints. In SQL, we have a constraint. We'll discuss later in detail about the constraint. So they will be creating the constraints. Suppose, let's say, on top of salary column, they have created not null constraint. Assume there is a not null constraint on salary column in stage T1 table. If there is a not null constraint on salary column in stage T1 table, this column will not allow to insert the null value. Okay, so to restrict the column data, the constraints will be created on top of a column in a table. So here on salary column, let's say they have created the not null constraint. So if there is a not null constraint on salary column, will it allow to insert the null value here? If there is any salary without having any value, so if any salary comes, will it allow to insert that record? No, it will fail the execution, right? Okay, so like that. Okay, now let's say we have set all types of the data validations in stage T1 table, and we have created Informatica mapping to extract 5 records from ODS T1 table, transform and load into the stage T1 table. Now tell me, our mapping is ready and we have started execution. As soon as we start execution of our mapping to load these 5 records from ODS T1 table to stage T1 table, tell me, will it allow to insert these 5 records inside the staging, or it will fail the execution? What will happen here between ODS to stage? Will it allow to insert these 5 records into the staging database, or will it fail the execution? What will happen? Any guess?
It will fail.
It will fail to execute.
Right? Yeah, it will fail the execution. As I told you, we have all types of the data validations here. and it will fail the execution. Okay, so since the date is 1 to the date should be 1 to 31, so, and we have got 55 here, it will not allow to insert and it will fail the execution. And if you get salary also as a null, then also it will fail the execution. Okay, so we created Informatica mapping to load ODS T1 table data to stage T1 table, and we have executed our Informatica mapping, but our mapping has failed the execution. Why it has failed the execution? Because of the error records in the source. What is the source here? ODS T1 is the source table, stage T1 is the destination table or a target table. While loading the data from source to target table, our Informatica mapping has failed the execution because of the error records in the source table. Okay, so if it has failed the execution, we can see the error log or error message in Informatica. Okay, so by seeing that error message, we came to know that okay, there is an invalid created, and for one of the value there is a salary as null. That is the reason Informatica mapping has failed the execution. Now what we will do? So who is maintaining the data in the ODS table? DBA team or source team or PLSQL developer team. So DB team, database administrator team, they are maintaining the data in ODS T1 table. They are maintaining the data in ODS T1 table. Now what we will do? So we are going to send an email to the ODS team or DBA team saying that our Informatica mapping failed while loading the data from ODS T1 table to stage T1 table because of these two error records we found in ODS database. Okay, so like that we are going to send an email to the DBA team because we do not have access. We don't know what date we have to update there. We don't know what salary we have to update there. We are just Informatica developers. We will just create an Informatica mapping to extract, transform and load the data, but we are not the responsible persons to decide what date we have to update and to decide what salary we have to update there in the ODS T1 table. Right, so since DBA team they have loaded the data from OLTP to ODS, okay, or they will take care and they will be getting the confirmation from the customer or a client saying that what data we have to update in ODS T1 table for these two records. Like that DBA team they will get the confirmation from the customer and they are going to update or they are going to correct the date from ODS T1. This created, they assume they have updated 55 to 5 and they have updated some salary here through some front-end application or by writing the update query. In SQL we have an update query that I will show you how to write. So by writing the update query, they will correct the date or they will correct the salary in ODS T1 table. So we are not going to correct the data. We are not going to fix the data in ODS database. Okay, since deviating, they have loaded the data, it's their responsibility to correct the data in ODS database. Let's say they have corrected the data, they have fixed the data in ODS database. And after correcting the data in ODS database, so whatever the email we have sent it to them, they are going to reply to our email saying that we have fixed the error records in ODS T1 table. Now you can execute your mapping to load the data from ODS to stage. So assume they have fixed the error record. Fixing means correcting the error records. So after they correct the error records in ODS T1 table, now we have started execution of our mapping. This time, tell me, is it going to fail or is it going to load all the 5 records from ODS to stage T1 table? What will happen this time? Is it going to load all the records or not?
Yes.
Yes, right? Okay, so it is going to load all the records from ODS T1 table to stage T1 table. Please unmute and give the answer so that I also know that you are able to follow. If you are not able to follow, if you have any question, you can stop me anytime and you can ask me. Okay, so if you are able to give the answer, then I will not be able to repeat. So that if you are not able to answer, that means you are not still clear with the concept. So I should have to repeat twice or thrice, right? Okay, so if you have any questions, you can stop me and you can ask. Okay, so this time after they fix the error records, like DBA team, they have fixed the error records in ODS T1 table. So after fixing, now if we rerun our Informatica mapping between ODS T1 table to stage T1 table, this time it will extract all the records from ODS T1 table, transform and load all the 5 records into the staging. Okay, so from stage, again we will have another ETL Informatica mapping between stage to data warehouse. That mapping will extract all the 5 records from the stage, transform, load into the data warehouse. Like that, the data will flow from source to destination database. Now in data warehouse, we have all the 5 records are the valid records, and on top of 5 records, if they are going to generate a report, and now the report is going to be valid. It is because since we have all the 5 are valid records, reports are also going to be valid. Okay, so this is one scenario. Okay, the first scenario, I repeat what we discussed here. So if there are any error records coming from the source, Informatica mapping will fail the execution, and we requested DBA team. They have fixed the records in the source database, which is ODS database. After they fix it, we have rerun our Informatica mapping, so that this time it will extract all the 5 records from ODS T1 table, transform and load into the stage T1 table, and after that we executed another Informatica mapping which will load the data from staging database to data warehouse database. So this time it has loaded all the valid records. Okay, this is first scenario. Okay, now the second scenario. Second scenario, let's say here we have only 5 records. Okay, assume we have 50 million records we have in the source database. In ODS T1 table, how many records are there? We have 50 million records are there. We have 50 million records are there. And we have created Informatica mapping to extract these 50 million records from ODS T1 table, transform, and we should have to load those 50 million records first into the staging database. Okay, and we created Informatica mapping. We started our Informatica mapping, assume at 9 p.m. Night 9 p.m. we have started, or let's say assume morning we have started, 9 a.m. we have started. 9 a.m. we have started execution of our mapping to load these 50 million records from ODS T1, transform and load into the stage T1 table. Okay, so how much time it will take to extract 50 million records from ODS T1 table, transform and load into the stage T1 table? Will it take time or not? If there are 5 records, within fraction of seconds it is going to be extracted and it will load all the 5 records from source to target. But if there are 50 million records, it will take long time to execute. Assume it took 2 hours. Okay, so it took 2 hours to load these 50 million records from ODS T1 table to stage T1 table. But here now, so out of 50 million records, for the last record, 50 millionth record, we have invalid create date like this. So here there is some salary, but create date out of 50 million records, all are valid records. Only the last record, 50 millionth record, we have error record. Like this, for the 50 millionth record, we have created date as 55, which is invalid date. Now our mapping started execution at 9 a.m. Okay, so it started first record, second record, third record, like that it started loading, and it has inserted 50 million minus 1 records, and the last record is 50 million record. Okay, so it has inserted successfully 59 million minus 1 record successfully inserted, and the last record is an error record. and while loading this last record from ODS T1 to stage T1 table, it has failed the execution. While loading the 50 millionth record, it has failed the execution. If it has failed the execution like this, okay, so what it will do is whatever the successfully inserted these records, so these records are going to be rollback. Rollback means delete. Automatically it will delete. Only if there is no error record, successfully inserted all the records from source to target, which is ODS to staging database, then only we will have all the records inside the stage T1 table. Okay, so if there is any failure during the execution, during the data load from ODS T1 to stage T1 table, if there is any failure, whatever the records it has inserted, all the records are going to be rolled back. Rollback means delete. It will delete all the records. Now, after 2 hours, now time 9 a.m. we started. Now the time is 11 a.m. So now 11 a.m. your Informatica mapping has failed. So if your Informatica mapping failed at 11 a.m., how many records you will find in that stage T1 table at 11 a.m.? So 11 a.m. how many records you will have in the stage T1 table?
0.
0 records. Got it? So 11 a.m. you will have 0 records because whatever the records, valid records loaded, those records also got deleted because of the failure during the execution. Suppose if there is no failure, if the execution got succeeded, that time you'll have all the 50 million records. If the last record, error record becomes error record, if it has failed the execution, whatever the records loaded, all the records are going to be rolled back, means deleted. So whatever the time it took, 2 hours gone, and 11 a.m. you have 0 records in your target table. Okay, now what you are going to do? So you are going to inform to the source team or DBA team. So our Informatica mapping failed. So can you please fix it? And we are going to rerun our Informatica mapping. Let's say you have sent an email to them. Okay, so as soon as you send an email to DBA team, they are going to look it and they are going to write an update statement and they are going to correct this create date. So within 1 minute, it is not going to happen. Assume they took 30 minutes of time. They took 30 minutes of time by 11:30 a.m. Now they have corrected the date in the ODS T1 table. Okay, now the time is 11:30 a.m. 11:30 a.m. Now they have fixed the date for the 50 millionth record in ODS T1 table. Now 11:30 a.m. we have started our Informatica mapping. Okay, again how much time it will take to execute? To load all the 50 million records?
2 hours.
Again 2 hours, right? Again 2 hours. So 11:30 a.m. started, 12:30 p.m. and 1:30 p.m. By 1:30 p.m. it should have to be completed. Okay, now second time we are waiting. We have started at 11:30 a.m. and now it is about to complete in 5 minutes. Now the time is, let's say, 1:25 p.m. and it will take another 5 minutes to complete. Okay, now the time is 1:25 p.m. in another 5 minutes it is going to be completed. But this time suddenly at 1:25 p.m. the Informatica server went down, or database server down, database is down and it is not responding. So because of the Informatica server went down and it is not going to execute further, and because of that it has failed the execution. This time we have valid data, all the 50 million are valid, but the second time Informatica server went down. Because of that reason our Informatica mapping failed at second time. It is about to complete in 5 minutes, but suddenly the Informatica server went down and it has failed the execution, and whatever the records loaded into the target table, all the records roll back and deleted. So at 1:30 p.m., if you write a query to see how many records are there in the target table, how many records you have in your target table at 1:30 p.m.? How many records are there in the target table at 1:30? Zero records. Because second time also it has failed because of some other reason. First time failed because of the error record. Second time failed because of the server went down. Second, another reason. So total 4 hours gone. 9 a.m. started and it failed in between. Again started, again failed. Now the time is 1:30. 4 hours gone. Nothing has loaded into the target table. Now your target table has 0 records. And in real time, you will not have only single mapping. You will have hundreds of Informatica mapping, hundreds of tables will be there. And if only this mapping took 4 hours of time and not even single record loaded into the target table, and how about other mappings when they are going to load? When other mapping, when T2 mapping to load the data from T2 to T2 table, when that is going to execute, and when this T3 T4 mappings are going to execute if this itself not completed in 4 hours. Right? So that is the reason generally what we do is, instead of failing the execution, even though there are error records like this while loading the data from ODS to stage table, okay, so if there are 50 million records and because of a single error record, if it is going to fail the execution, again we have to start processing the record from the beginning. Again it is going to take 2 hours of time. It's waste of time. So that is the reason what we do is, so we have a scenario like in Informatica, instead of failing the execution, if any error record coming from the source, do not fail the execution, and in the stage itself you create another table like log table or error table. With the same columns you create another table. All the valid records you load into the actual stage T1 table, all the error records load into the log table. Now we have one source and two target tables here in the staging. One is actual stage T1 table, the other one is log table. Right? So let's say we have created Informatica mapping to load all the valid records into the stage T1 table and to load all the error records into the log table. Now out of 5 records, let's say which are the records it will load into the stage T1 table and which are the records it is going to load into the log table. Can you tell me? Which records we will get here in the stage T1 table out of 5? Okay, which are those valid record? Employee number 1 and then
1, 2,
1, 2, 4.
4.
1, 2, 4 and 5 also we have a salary now here. Assume currently we have only 5 records. Out of that we have only 55 is error record and salary we have some 500 here. Okay, so since we have the salary, 5 also valid record. So these are the valid records, and third record is an error record. That error record it is going to load into the log table, and it will continue the execution, and our execution is going to be succeeded. And this time it has not failed the execution. This is a second scenario. First scenario, failing the execution. Source team they will fix it, and we will rerun again. In the second scenario, we are not going to fail the execution. Okay, even the error record coming from the source, instead of failing the execution, we will send that error record into the log table. All the valid records we will load into the stage T1 table, and all the error records we will load into the all the error records we will load into the log table, and we will continue the execution. Okay, so once execution got completed, so since there is no failure, then it for these whatever the records valid records loaded into the stage T1 table, it will execute the commit. We know in the last class we discussed about after insert commit should execute, then only data will save permanently. If you don't execute the commit, then the data won't save permanently. Here Informatica will take care to execute this commit after loading the data into the target table, and if there is no failure, it will execute the commit. If there is a failure, then it will execute a command called rollback. When rollback command will execute, if there is a failure during the execution, rollback command will execute, that will roll back all the data. Rollback means it will delete all the records. But if there is no failure, even the error records coming, and if those error records loaded into the log table, and if the execution has not failed, then it will execute the commit for these whatever the records inserted inside. Clear? Okay. Now today's date is September 1st. So September 1st, we have run date. In Informatica, we will be writing a logic to extract the records from ODS T1 table where run date is equals to September 1st. So September 1st records will be extracted. There are 5 rows which are having the September 1st as a run date. So these 5 records will be extracted. While loading into the staging, it found one error record. That error record it has loaded into the log table, and all the valid records it has loaded into the stage table. After successful of the execution, we will verify the counts between source and the target. In source, there are total 5 records are there. We are expecting total 5 records to be loaded into the stage T1 table. But have we got all the 5 records inside the stage T1 table?
No, only we
Have we
get
got all 5? No.
Only
We have
4.
only 4 records. Right? Now we are getting the count mismatch here. We are getting count mismatch between source and the target. So if we are getting the count mismatch, definitely that means there are some error records, and we have to verify the log table. Now we will go to the log table. We will write a query. In the last class, we have written select star from table name. Like that, we will write select star from log. So if you write a select statement to display the records, it will display employee number 3 record. And by seeing that, we can easily identify, okay, so for this record, there is an invalid created date as a 55. That is the reason this is rejected. Okay, so because of this error record, do we have to execute in the next time when we run? That time, do we have to extract all the 5 records again from the source? Second time, after fixing that error record in the ODS T1 table, is it necessary to select all the 5 records, and is it necessary to load all the 5 records again into the stage T1 table?
No.
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 How many records we have to extract from ODS T1 table?
Only error. Only error.
Only error record. The employee number 3 record only we have to extract. See, in the previous scenario, if there is any failure, again here we were extracting from the beginning, right? But here we are not going to extract from the beginning. We'll be extracting wherever it has failed. I mean, like whichever the record it has rejected or error loaded into the log table, only that record will be extracted. Okay, fine. So today your execution completed to load 1, 2, 4, 5 into the stage T1 table and the error record into the log table. Okay, now what you are going to do by seeing the error record, after seeing the error record, so you are going to send an email to the DBA team saying that we found one error record today, which is employee number 3. For that record, we found some invalid created in ODS T1 table. Can you please fix it? Like that, we are going to send an email to the DBA team. Okay, so now what DBA team is going to do? So they are going to correct this date. Let's say they have written some query to fix this record from 55 to 5. So like that, they have updated. So from 55 to 5, they have updated. Okay, and let's say today we have sent an email. Tomorrow they have updated. They took some time and they have updated tomorrow. So tomorrow they also have to update the run date along with this created. They also have to update the run date to 9 to tomorrow's date. They are going to update like this. They have updated. So our mapping, whatever we have created between ODS T1 to stage T1 table, every day we will run. Because every day we will get some latest records in ODS T1 table. That's the reason our mapping we should have to run every day. Okay, so tomorrow when our Informatica mapping is executed between ODS to stage T1 table, tomorrow how many records will be extracted from ODS T1 table? Is it going to extract all the 5 records or only one record?
Only one record.
So tomorrow we have run date is equal to system date. So if we call run date is system date 9 to September 2nd, we have only for one record, only that record only it will be extracted, and it will try to insert this record into the stage T1 table. So now since that record is valid, so this time it will be inserted. So it will delete the record. So we'll write a logic to truncate or to delete the record from the log table and to insert the record into the stage T1 table. Now all the records are loaded. So what we will do tomorrow, we will run our stage 2 data warehouse mapping. It will extract all the 5 valid record and it will load into the data warehouse. On top of the data warehouse, reports will be generated. Clear? So this is our second scenario. First scenario, failed the execution. Second scenario, without failing, send that error record to the log table and continue the execution. And later we'll inform to the DBA team. After they fix it, in the next run, that error record will be loaded. In the tomorrow's run, that error record will be extracted from ODS T1 table and it will be loaded into the staging. Got it? This is second scenario. Okay, now we'll discuss a third scenario. Third scenario, let's say for one of the record, we have the date like this. This is the third scenario. So third scenario, we have a date, create date like some 4, 6, some 20, 55 we have. So if you observe here, 2055, which is a future date. Is it possible to have for any of the record created as a future date? Is it valid?
No, it is
Can we
not
have like,
valid.
this is not valid, right? This is invalid record. Okay, someone by mistake, they have inserted the future date for one of the record here. Okay, fine. We have the record now. We have Informatica mapping to load the data from ODS T1 table to stage T1 table. Okay, so here in stage T1 table, we have a validation for the date and the month. We are checking whether date is 1 to 31, month is 1 to 12. We do not have any validation for the year. So if you don't have any validation, we are not checking whether the date is a system date or the future date, that we are not checking. So in such scenario, tell me, is it going to insert all the 5 records from ODS T1 to stage T1 table or not? What will happen this time? Will it load these 5 records or not? Yes, right, because we are not checking anything for the year. So it will select all the 5 records and all the 5 records will be inserted into the stage T1 table. So let's say here date we have 9/1 only. So it will extract all the 5 records, and since the date and month are valid here, it has inserted, but we are not checking anything for the year. Okay, so this time in the third scenario, we have a error record, which is future date record we have here. That record also in the third scenario, it has loaded into the target because we are not checking anything for the year. Okay, fine. After that, so from stage, again, another Informatica mapping will execute, that will extract these 5 records from stage T1 table, transform, and it will load these 5 records into the data warehouse. Now this error record, future date record we have in ODS T1 table, stage T1 table, and also data warehouse also we have loaded. So this error record we have, it exists in all the 3 databases, ODS, stage, and the data warehouse database tables. We have this error record. Okay, now on top of the data warehouse, reporting team, they will generate a report. Okay, so in their report, they have written the logic to extract the record from the ODS database where created less than or equal to system date. Okay, so like that, they have logic in the report. In Tableau, we have different types of reporting tools like Tableau, ClickView, Looker, Business Objects, Cognos, Power BI, like that. There are so many reporting tools. So by using the reporting tool, they have generated the report. So create date less than or equal to system date. So this condition will satisfy for how many records in the data warehouse? Is it going to satisfy for all the 5 records, or how many records will be extracted from ODS? Can you tell me?
Only 4 records.
Only 4 records, right? So the third record, the condition is not going to satisfy. Only 4 employees information will be extracted in the report. Now this reporting team, they will send it to the business people. Now business has received the report from the reporting team which contains 4 employees information. Business knows that there should be 5 employees information. Business knows that there should be 5 employees information, but report is showing 4. Now what business team will do? They will raise a ticket, or we called it as incident, to the reporting team, saying that we are expecting 5 employees information in the report, but why your employees, why this report is showing only 4, right? So we are going to raise a ticket saying, so we are expecting 5 employees information, but your report shows only 4. Why? Please do the analysis and inform us why the other employee information is missing. So like that, they will raise a ticket. Now what reporting team will do? They will do the analysis why the one employee information is missing. During their analysis, they found for one of the records there is an invalid create date, future date we have. That is the reason that record has not selected in the report, because in the report they have the logic create date less than or equal to system date they have. That is the reason this employee number 3 record not extracted from the data warehouse. Okay, so like that they will do the analysis and they found the error record. Now who has loaded that error record into the data warehouse? Is it reporting team or Informatica team or ETL team? Who has loaded that record into the data warehouse? How that error record loaded into the data warehouse?
DBA team.
ETL team.
Right? ETL team. We are the ETL developers. Right? We only created the mapping to load the data from stage, ODS to stage, stage to data warehouse. We only loaded that error record into the data warehouse. Okay, now that ticket will send it to you. You are working in that project. So you are the ETL developer. So they are going to send that ticket to you. They will inform you saying that, so we found for one of the record there is an invalid created, you please fix it, we'll regenerate the report. Now you have received the ticket. What you are going to do, you are going to write a select statement to see, like a select star from, like in data warehouse, DW underscore T1, let's say T1 table, right? Where employee number is equal to 3. Like that, you will write a query in data warehouse. Yes, you found for error for this record, there is a future date. Now, from where this error record loaded? From the staging database, right? Okay, so in stage database, you write a query again, select star from stage T1 table. Stage T1 where employee number equal to, like that you write a query. So in the last class I have shown you about the select statement. Like that, if you write a query, it will display the records, right? So for employee number 3 in stage database, there is the error record. Yes, you found in stage also. Now in the same way, what you are going to, you write a query, select star from ODS T1. Like this is called backtrack. We do the backtrack or reverse engineering to see where the issue exists, where the error record exists, from where this error record it is getting loaded. So during our analysis, we found in ODS T1 also there is the error record. ODS also there is the error record. Okay, now that future date record, we found that it exists in ODS stage and data warehouse. But in ODS, we are not going to fix it. We will inform to the DBA team. So DBA team we have informed. So what DBA team will do? They will update this. So some 55 to they have updated to 15. This is valid. 15 is valid. So assume DBA team they have updated to 15. 55 to 2015 they have fixed it. Now what we have to do? We also have to fix it. That error record into the stage as well as the data warehouse. How we are going to fix it? We are ETL developers. How we are going to fix it? That error record means we also have to write a query like this. Update query we have to write. Update which table? First they have updated, or DBA team they have updated in the ODS. Now we have to update in stage and data warehouse. Update stage T1 table set. Okay, so create date is equal to, we will write some date, whatever the date we have, they have here 4/6/20 15, okay, where employee number is equal to 3. So like that we will write a update query to update the data in the table. Okay, so this query, what it will do in the stage T1 table, it will correct, it will update 2055 to 2015, it will update, right? So like that we will fix the error record by executing the update query in the same way. So we also have to run update query in the data warehouse also. In data warehouse, if the table name is DWT1, so update DWT1 set create date is equal to this 2015 date where employee number is equal to 3. Like that we have to write an update statement to update record in the data warehouse also. So this updating the error records in the staging on the data warehouse, we called it as a data fix. What we call data fix. Data fix means fixing the error records. This is also one of the Informatica developers responsibility. Okay, so we write this update query, or in some companies there will be a separate team, data fix team itself, it will be there. So we have to inform to the data fix team, they will be taking care to write the SQL query to update the date in the staging and the data warehouse database. Okay, but if there is no data fix team, we only have to take care to fix the error record in the stage and the data warehouse. So like that, after we fix that error record into the data warehouse, then we will inform to the reporting team, yes, now we have corrected the date in the stage and data warehouse, you regenerated the report. Now reporting team, they will regenerate the report. So this time, since we have the valid record in the, we have executed the update statement to correct the date in the data warehouse. So this time this report shows 5 employees information, and that report will send it to the business people. So like that it will happen. The data flow from one database to another database. Okay, and the last point, we'll finish in a couple of minutes. Okay, so the last point here, now in data warehouse, assume they have the business from last 10 years. They are maintaining or they are running the business from last 10 years. And so here in data warehouse, we know historical data of last 10 years of data we have. Okay, now in this report, I want only business people, or they are expecting a report of last 3 years. 3 years report they are expecting. So if the report query is going to execute on top of 10 years, it will take a long time. That is the reason, instead of directly extracting the report on top of the data warehouse, first we will load the data from data warehouse to, here we have another database. RD means reporting database, or some companies we call it as a data mart or reporting database or materialized views. We'll discuss in detail in the next class about this. Data reporting database or materialized views will be there. So here, whatever the data is required to generate a report, suppose let's say they want only last 3 years of data. So by using ETL Informatica, again we extract the data from data warehouse, transform and load into this data mart database. Only the last 3 years of data we will maintain. And if this report is going to generate on top of the data marts, very quickly the query is going to execute, and within fraction of seconds the report will be generated. Whereas here, since we have 10 years or 20 years of data, queries will take long time and it will take time to generate a report. So that is the reason. So in some of the companies, instead of directly extracting the report from the data warehouse, they load the data from data warehouse to data marts. On top of the data marts, the reports will be generated. Okay, so like that, this is the data flow. So from OLTP to ODS, ODS to staging, staging to data warehouse to data marts. The data will flow like this from one database to another database. Finally, on top of the data warehouse or data marts, the reports will be generated. This is the standard data flow in any of the projects. And whatever we discussed, whatever I have explained in today's session, this is 100% interview question. Okay, 100% interview question. Every interview, first they will ask to explain your current project. So this is your current project data flow. Not only in my project or any other project, in every data warehouse project, this is the standard flow. This is how the data will flow from one database to another database, and the reports will be generated. right? So if they ask you to explain your current project data flow, you can say that in my project we have OLTP and ODS. These two are the source databases. Next to ODS we have staging area. Next to staging area we have data warehouse. Next we have data marts. Between these databases, as Informatica developer, I have created the mappings like CDC. We called it as a change data capture or incremental load mappings we will create between ODS to stage, and between staging to data warehouse, I created SCD type 2 mappings, and I created SCD type 1 mappings between data warehouse to data marts. Like that you have to explain. And in Informatica class, we'll discuss in detail what is the CDC or a load or SCD type 2 or SCD type 1. These mappings practically will see in the Informatica class. So for now, understand the data flow, understand why do we have the ODS, understand what is staging database, why do we have the staging database, what will happen if you don't have the staging database, right? And how the data will flow, what are the different scenarios. We discussed 3 scenarios, right? Like error records. So how to handle the error records if there is any error record coming, right? 3 scenarios we discussed. Remember those 3 scenarios. And if they ask, tell me why do you have the staging area, you have to explain the same scenario. Suppose if there are any error records, so before loading into the data warehouse, we have to do the data analysis, we have to find the error records, fix the error records, correct the error records, then only we have to load the valid records into the data warehouse. That's the reason we have the staging database, right? So like that the data flow you understand, right? So that's all for the day. We'll stop here today and then we'll continue tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow also same time, use the same link. If there is any change in the link, I'll drop email. You just you have to keep checking your emails regularly. Okay, and today's recording also I will upload in the same link. Yesterday I have shared one link, Informatica recordings link. I have shared Google Drive link, right? In the same link today's recording also you will find. So I will not send another link for the today's recording, right? In the same folder only, Google Drive, I'll be uploading. You just check your email, Informatica Training recordings email I have shared, and there you will have the link to download the recording. In the same link only I will be uploading today's recording after 1 hour. Okay, so you can check after 1 hour. Fine. So that's all for the day. So please go through the recording once again, try to understand the concept, try to maintain the notes, and then before attending the interview you can also go through that notes. That's it. That's all for the day. Thank you. We'll continue tomorrow.
Okay, sir.